So welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live stream with live peoples and a live puppy at my feet. He's trying to pull the blanket down so that he can get the fluffy blanket. I'm working in Animorphia by Kerby Rosanes, and I seem to have neglected this quite a lot. I had a bit of a practice. I did a couple of pages with practice, but I haven't actually touched it for a long time. So I'm just worried why I've suddenly frozen. Have I frozen for some reason? Let me just check my settings. So we lost our parrot Charlie at the beginning of the week, or last week, so I thought, oh, that's the one I did in watercolour, so I've only actually done one full colour page. So I thought it was time that I did some more. Move that glass of water out because that would be spilling. So I found this page for Charlie, and what I normally do and that shouldn't be there anyway, is I put a sticky label when I start a page, so I know that I've got these on the top to finish, and then when I finish them I put a sticky on the side. So there's only one sticky because there's only one finished page. So I found this page. It looked a little bit like Charlie, who was a green Amazon parrot. Our chatterbox Charlie, so it's very quiet without him because he was a noisy boy. So where there's a little bit of white or pale, I'm going to put the white underneath. Now you do this traditionally when you use traditional watercolours, traditional pastels, but seeing as we're not actually doing that, we can only get one layer. But having said that, you can get the tiniest little bit of colour, so that's what I'm trying to do, is to kind of blend some colours. So I've spent quite a while with all these colours. I've tried to match them up from the photograph of him, so I'll zoom in and you might be able to see a little bit better. Well, it's on high definition. This is why I wanted to go to YouTube, because I thought it would be better, but never mind. We'll see if we can zoom in a little bit. And I'll try and keep the thumb out of the way. And then don't forget that Kerby Rosanes actually does put, I don't think this is that kind of a grey, is it? It's a warmish grey, is that? And then on the bottom of the beak we'll have that one next. And then I think I'll just have a little bit of that. It's a bit bluey, that. This is a darker one, this one. So I can't give the colours because they're in a mixture. But what I tend to do is just slightly blend out. Be a little bit neater than I can be, but sometimes it's quite nice to actually follow something that's correct, if that makes a sense, that actually is real, because it just looks that little bit nicer. So I've blended that. Now I like this way of working with a blender. and then I found a way to fix it. So I've gone over the line there. So what I like to work this way, because if you make a mistake or you go over, you can use one of these electric erasers and just take off back to the line. So it's quite good if you make a bit of a boo-boo. Now if you take it off at this section, and then you can also get your highlight. So I've given Charlie a highlight there and a highlight there, and then you want a really soft brush to brush away all those bits very carefully, because even though it's blended, dust will come off. So I hope everybody can see that. No, I didn't. I rang up yesterday and the doctor hadn't looked at them, so because I was desperate to get some allopurinol in here. Because I said to the lady, I said, well, will you let me know, because if it is, I need to be taking a pill, because it's going to wreck the joint even more, and if it wrecks the joint I won't be able to use the thumb at all. And if it is the other arthritis, then I can't do anything about it. But if it's pseudo gout, it will cut through that joint and wreck it. And so I was a bit cross, because it's not like, and 2 days, she says, oh, here, look at it today. I said, well, yeah, but 2 days is going to make a big difference to me. It's the difference between a joint that's completely deformed and not. So I was a bit cross. So no, I haven't. So point. Are we back to normal? So I would think that's got a little bit of a highlight on it. If you can see the correct colour. There's a little bit of a highlight on there. And then we've got the nice shading. So what I'm going to do with that is take a damp baby wipe. Now I've got two here. I've got one that's been just normal, and I've one that's actually, when you dip in water and then you drain your brush, it becomes a bit wetter. So it's not soddened, but it's a damp baby wipe, and it's a little bit damper than it would be if it was straight out the packet. But what that gives you is the perfect consistency of as soon as I'm stroking this paintbrush, you can see it go shiny and then it instantly dries. It's a bit like when you spill water on a cooker ring that's warm, it instantly evaporates, and that's what's happening here. And that's the perfect consistency that we want. Give that a minute or two. That's now set. It's not a pastel anymore. So it's set. And I found that's actually the best way to do that. So if you go back to Charlie, it's got, this is a grey bit here before it starts to go yellow. Or if we look at the other picture, whoops. Yeah, he actually has yellow under his eye and he's grey on top. So, and he's got some quite nice yellowing on here as well. So I think we're going to start with here. A bit of an ivory yellow going on. And here, I think. And that becomes a kind of a greenier yellow, so I kind of like that in places. Oh, I've gone the wrong way. These are the paler colours here. So have a look at that. Mix that in with there, and mix that in with a bit of that. We've got our very pale. And then it becomes apparent that this yellow is going to turn quite yellow. And then by the time it gets down here, it's quite yellow. Yeah, and I actually don't like that, so I've got something on there, so what I'm going to do is take off this because I went too far down. So the beauty of it is I can just erase that. Because I'm not happy with that. And I can just, I don't want to go on the top there because there's too much colour sitting there, but just take those little bits off. And then I'm just going to blend, and again I've got grey there, so I've got to clean my baby wipe. So I've got to clean the blender because that's just going to be too dark. So we'll give that a bit of a mix, and then we'll mix this into there. And there is a little bit of dust coming off, so we could take a bit down there. If I look back on the other one, it could be a grey-green. Take a bit off there because there's too much around his eye there. Now that was a bit of a warm grey, that really, but there's a bit of a grey going on there. So we can get a little bit of that into there, and just that bit there, so it's not looking like he's, and then you just a hint of this green here. Now so if anybody got any questions, pop them in caps. I'm just plopping a lot. So thank you for watching, and this is a live stream with live peoples having a natter, recorded for Ustream.tv and also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. And everybody seems to be behaving themselves at the moment. So again, now I've blended it, I can just very carefully wisp that off. I've got quite a nice transition, so you can see that the colours are slightly better there. So then we can forget the yellows now because we've just got the greens. The greens are going on now. And underneath the kind of greeny green, grey green. He has some quite paleness under here. Gets, oops, sorry, little bark alert, don't know why, sorry. Bit of a barcolet going on. I think a lot of this colour is kind of transpire to that kind of colour. Sorry, little monsters on Monster Patrol. Sorry, little Barky Pants is having a moment. I think he still has a bit of a greeny colour going on, and then it can get darker. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you, DRD Mum. It isn't really, it's the magic pastels. They are magic. They are wonderful. They just behave themselves so well. You just got to remember not to put your hand on there, because that's dust now. You just blend the dust in. But again, I thought I loved the watercolours. But this is just scratching colour in. And then blending. And it seems to work really well. Sorry about Barky Bumps. He barks at fresh air, bless him. So if I bring my thumb round here. So I like to blend, I like this way, it's more, how can I put it? It makes a more realistic effect. That's the best way of putting it. So like the Hagrid page, you know, it made everything really blend nicely. This is a firm blender, but again we're on paper without a tooth, so it's going to be a little bit different anyway. And you just want to make sure that you go right to the edges with most of them. So where you haven't got a lot of colour, it'll blend it paler, and then when it hits another colour, it'll blend that in quite nicely. So you have a seamless blend almost, which I would think would take a long time with pencils. You'd need 3 or 4 pencils to transform a pale to a dark, whereas here you can do it almost instantly. So again, like that idea. And I'm not really pressing down with this pencil because I can't with this blender. So he's gone from the pale at the top to kind of a bit of a deep under there, and then that probably will come out again. Oops, that's so he kind of goes a bit paler, and then he goes into a richer green here, and then this is where these come over the top here, where we're out of thing. But on his wing he's going to be kind of a richer colour. And so I've got this May green, which I kind of like, so I think we're going to take May green up here. So we can do it 2 ways. We can actually push it where it's supposed to be, and we can use a highlighted colour, and then pick the palest and then have nothing. I'm just going to take that off, and then what that will give you is a very, very bright highlight. You've got to remember that will be dust and it will brush off, but just here's a bit of eraser. So I'm going to clean the blending tool, because if I don't, I won't get that really nice highlight. And sorry if it's flashed out, it looks fine on mine. Oh dear, Mum says he's having a natter. Yeah, Monster Patrol. Yeah, I like to think we wouldn't be burgled, but you never know. So if we blend almost nothing there, we're going to get the highlight, and then we can start to blend the other. And in theory, we should get a most beautiful highlight. Now everybody that says, oh, Inktense pencils and watercolour pencils leave lines, oh, these don't leave any lines at all, because it's dust and you're blending it to nothing, so you don't get really anything. But we have a lovely highlight on that shadow, on that shoulder, on that wing. And I'll probably do the same with this one. So I've got the 3 colours I used. I got the darkest here. I might actually use the darkest there, because what I want to do is introduce the darker parrot colours before I run out of space. So that's the darkest, and then I think that's actually paler. And then this one's, oh no, it's the other way around, it's slightly darker as that one, but it's softer. So, but, oh, Alfie, he's just jumped on my slippers and knocked my slippers off. And then I'm actually going to put white on, because what white will do, it will really stop that colour blending. Just to clean the blending tool, and I'm using a firm blending tool because I prefer it for colour books. And then we just smush the white in first. Always start with the lightest colour, and then, as if you were with an oil brush, gradually bring in a little bit of colour, and then wet down to the next layer. And I'm not pushing down at all, I'm just sliding this across the page, and that layer can be a mixture of that one. And then when you get to here, it's gone. Now if you're not happy with that, you can bring this back up, but just leave the smallest amount pure. Oh, you don't have to, it's actually done quite well. It's got really natural progression. And then I can bring in, I have some quite dark colours now for the, this is the next one. And we had this colour here for Charlie. It was this colour here, just poking in. So it's not looking like I'm going to get a very... No, I'm going to leave, I'm going to take that off because I don't like that one. It's just a bit too dark. And again, just make sure you brush gently. That one. But this is a rich green now, so we want rich green at the back. We would like rich green down here and in here. And then we can start with those colours again under there. So let's give it a bit of a blend and see what happens. I may not like that. It's not too far out. It looks like you've got kind of underwing feathers coming out of the others, and that's because these blend quite well. And I think we might get away with just a little bit in there. Just the tiniest bit. So I now need to do that wing, and this wing's got to be the same as this. It's got to have the white right on the end, and then it can have kind of the next yellow green. Which lends itself to that one, and then we can have a little bit of the next one. And then we get this one. And I'm going to bring that one up a bit, and then we've got this one, and then last of all we've got kind of a really dark morphing one into there somewhere. And that should bring us down to here. So I'll blend this one. Again, I've got to take off that blending tool. So thanks for stopping by, guys. Hope everybody's well. Hope you're having a good natter. If you've got any questions, pop them in caps. Sorry if I'm missing them. I get kind of a bit carried away when I'm copying a photograph. But I intend to start one of Charlie. Sorry, not of Charlie, beg your pardon. Of Alfie. On pastel paper. I bought some pastel paper while I was away, and I thought that would do quite well. Could possibly need a bit of a shadow more under there, but it wants to come light. And then we kind of want to change the colour. A little bit, so we'll take that up there. And because you've got a tiniest amount of that other colour on there, you can still blend it round. So that should be quite good. And apologies, I don't know if it's the postman, I don't think it is. And I've moved my room round now, so I can't see if he's got his shorts on, so that's upsetting. That's my highlight of my day, seeing the postman in his shorts. Sad old woman ogling the postman because he's got shorts on in the middle of winter. So I'm going to take that into there, and then I want to kind of bring that kind of green into there, so that when we get to his tail end, he's kind of got this natural progression. I don't think we're going to see any of those oranges. I think we're just going to see an African, a green Amazon parrot, I think. think his tail goes actually lighter, I think. Towards the end he has a brighter tail towards the end. And I think that's the end of our parrot. So we'll carry on blending. Sorry, I'm in my own light. That's actually what's taking out, but what I'm going to do is I want a really nice blend, so I'm going to go for the blend and then I'll go back in with the eraser, and I can get rid of things I don't really want. I find that the easiest way. So you want a really natural blend, and you're not going to get that if you're not going up to the edge. Excuse me. So I love my eraser for that. You can kind of really get a lovely blend going. It's a bit difficult in this corner. I think I'm going to make that darker. I think I'd like it a bit darker. I don't have to. I think I like it that little bit darker. It's a gorgeous Charlie colour, so I'll just put a little bit to there. Now I've got 2 layers almost there, so got to be a little bit careful because it won't like any more than that. And I'll go back with the eraser and I'll get rid of things I don't want. Oh, excuse me. So the colours didn't really stay in order, but if we have a look. I found mine I've had for years, and the firm ones I thought were firm weren't particularly firm. So if it says firm hard, that's what I would buy. But in the not the works. Just let me have a mouthful of coffee, 2 seconds. In Cass Art, it says pastel kit. They were very, very soft. And then I went to another art shop in Glasgow, round the corner, and it says these were hard. Well, they're not very hard. Excuse me. So I would go for hard rather than well, firm is what this one says, but these are about £8 to £10 each. Not that one, the one I'm using here. I think it's about £8, but it's a colour shaper by Royal Sovereign. They are the taper point firm, and they are solid. Just spilt my water. So they are solid, but I'm not sure. I would go for firm hard, but that's for a colour book. If you were doing any other work, I think a softer one's better. Excuse me. I don't know if anybody else has got any firm one. Let me just pan out and have a mouthful of coffee. And we have a Charlie. We have a Charlie bird. So I'm quite pleased with that. I think this one wants darkening up a little bit. But what I was going to show you is I've gone over here because I wanted a really nice blend. So I pick the eraser up and I go back in there. So things that I'm going to morph into other things, that's a cloud. And again, I'm going to go darker so it doesn't really matter. There's the tiniest stain because I've kind of blended it. If I hadn't have blended it, it would have come out almost perfect. That's a cloud. So I just have to hold my hand that way, and then we've got kind of a fish coming out of there, and then that's another cloud. But the rest is and then down here there's some kind of something going on there, caterpillar coming out. There's a cloud, so I completely went over that cloud. So there's a green tint, but I'm actually going to I might do a purple cloud actually, I'm not sure. We need to go get the face out there. There's another cloud. This is a cloud. And I can take it away and then I can come back with the green in a minute. So here I've gone over the line, so I can take that back. Even though I've blended it, sometimes it is a bit of a stain, but at least it means you can get a nice blend. That's a rose. That's an octopus's arm. So there's one or two things we need to kind of get back. So I think that will do. So I need to kind of carefully get rid of all that erased bits, because we don't want those near really. And take my blender and just go in there, because I hadn't gone in there very well. So there we've got our Charlie. And that took about half an hour, so it took me about 20 minutes to get the colours, but it was worth it in the end. I'm just going to put a bit of a shadow down there. So I like the really darker colour here. We had that dark rich colour, and maybe just a little bit under there, just a tiny bit, just to show that we're kind of, and then you can kind of I'm going to clean the blending tool because I don't really want any dark until I want the dark on it, if that makes sense. So sometimes it comes off on your fingers. I don't know why, but it's magic. You just kind of keep rubbing it until it comes off. And I've made that quite a nice natural. And this one a little bit as well, just a bit of a natural highlight. And we can take that as far as you want to kind of really blend it out. It's hardly anything, just the tiniest bit. And the same with this one. You can really get that out. So you know that that's going to be under all this, and then we can take that down. It's still movable. If you've got thumbs it's even better, but it is still movable. And then we want our feet doing. Oh, thank you, Caroline, thank you. There's our Charlie, and the colours aren't too far out. He's a green. It's not yellow, he is green. He is green, bless him. It's green. So that isn't set, but it's blended in. So it will come off a little bit. It won't come off a lot though, but it still would smudge. So what we can do now with him, if we're quite happy with him, again I might just take that smudge up there a bit. Maybe I didn't like that smudge. But it is behind, so I did do his beak, so his beak's completely set, but the rest of him isn't. So I'm going to take my number 6 rigger, and I've got a damp brush because it's been used to dunk a brush. It's actually a lot damper, not a lot damper, but if you squeezed it you might just get a tiny drop out of it. That's how you'd explain it. If I dunk into water, which I don't think I've got now, so it's a damp baby wipe, and we see how damp it is. If you can see, there's a tiniest, shiniest kind of glisten up here. I do actually want it slightly wetter than that, so best to dunk for this particular thing, best to dunk and then dry off with a baby wipe. And what you're doing is you're just stroking completely over, but not near the eye because I haven't done that. So don't go over anything you haven't already done, but anything that's blended and that you're happy with, you're stroking this wet damp, and as it's going glistened it's drying. So if you do that on the hob and you wipe something and it instantly dries, that's what it's like for here. That's what's happening. I can see it glistening, and then by the time I've taken the paintbrush off it's stopped glistening, it's dried, and that's just how damp you want the brush to be. Any wetter and your pages will buckle. And it's not like the other page, we're not blending anymore, we're just setting this with a very, very soft brush that's barely damp. Because we've already blended it, we've already got it exactly where we want it. All we need to do now is just set it. And you just need to make sure that you go over it everywhere, so you're instantly turning it into a dried watercolour rather than smudged pastel, which will move. So dunk into a wet brush, dunk into a wet dunky brush, and then just take a lot off until you can just barely see it glistening. And you need to go all over. The rigger's better for this, it stays drier. If you had a huge watercolour brush, the minute you push it down it would just flood it with water and it will spoil it. It'll make your page crinkle, so you may as well use watercolours to start with. This way your pages stay absolutely beautiful. Now they do buckle a tiny bit because I'm putting quite a lot on here because my thumb's not working. Now I've missed a tiny bit under there, but it doesn't matter, I can go back and rectify that. What I shouldn't have done is I shouldn't have coloured, dampened those little creatures' heads, the antennae, because I've set them now in watercolour. So when I take my eraser now, I don't think they'll come out. Have a look. I have to wait for it to dry. The fish here I lost, and there was something else I lost. Now I can take a bit of it off, and I'm going darker anyway there. Where else did I go to somewhere? So let me see if I can take these off. Yeah, I didn't put too much, I didn't put as much water on, so I managed to just stay away, so I could still get a very pale colour if I wanted. And again, I quite like working this way. It's fairly quiet, fairly easy. You've hardly any dust because all the dust is grinding out, so all this now is set. Oops, that could be, I do apologise, it could be a postman alert, so bear with me 2 seconds, I shall return. Oh, sorry about that, it was hubby. I just noticed that the camera's shaking again. I don't know why it does that. So that's set. There's a tiny little bit of a... Well, this hasn't gone through, but I can just see a little tiny bit, but that's because I was rushing it. Paintbrush. So... Struck through. Have I just knocked my camera? Yep, I just knocked the camera. Whoa. Sorry about that. Whoopsie. I just knocked the camera. Oh, I've got so many wires now. Hang on, I have to put that down. Gosh. It's because you've got to have so many wires. Woo. Sorry about that, guys. Oh my goodness. Right. So, remember to move your baby wipe if you move your page because it'll crinkle it. Ow, sorry thumb. So I had a bit bigger brush than that, didn't I? I had the 4 one, I think. I've actually got the number 6. So the quicker you go, the wetter the page. So very carefully just stroking over the top. If you could do a feather at a time, that probably would be better. And literally squeezing this onto here is actually doing the job. So again, you know, a baby wipe that's a little tiny bit wetter than it would normally be is the right consistency. And as soon as you see a glisten on the page, you want to see it disappear. And then that's going to be the right consistency. I don't think you can see the glisten on this, but I wonder why the dogs didn't bark. It was hubby, so there's 2 ways you can work. You can blend with a paintbrush, but I like to blend to get the really vivid colours and grind them into the book page, and then just wipe over very carefully, very quickly. I think the Harry Potter page took me 20 minutes to half an hour to set. But the beauty of it is that now, so just keep nipping. As dry as possible, and your page will stay beautiful and flat. So I think he's all done now. Yep, he's all done now. Thank you, darling. Thank you. Did you put any sugar in it? Oh, thank you, darling. So I can turn my phone off because we've got our Charlie. Put him to one side. Oh, thank you, Scooby. Hi, Scooby. Welcome to Bunny's Designs. If anybody's got any questions, pop them in caps. Anybody else I've missed? So I said hi to everybody. So it did take me quite a lot of colours. I didn't use the oranges and the blues, but I did use nearly all the other colours, just the tiniest amount, but it works really well. It worked quite well, did that. So I'm going to pop these back now. What time are we up to now? 50 minutes. Right, so I'm actually just going to shut that just because I want to throw these in. So I have these are my brighter blues, my pale blues and my brighter blues. I think the Celelium, no, I don't think they go there at all. There's ultramarines gone on this side, so bear with me 2 seconds. I have an orange, but that was tomato, and I found that tomato is it's an orangey red. I think I put that with the yellows actually, but let's have a look. Then I have my very pale yellows, which are here, and my whites, my zinc yellows, and my zinc yellow D, because it's quite, I don't know if that one should be there. It's an umber. And then my very pale greens, I think these are my greys. These are my pale olives and my greys. So I've got cold greys and I've got warm greys. Again, that's I think that's almost green. I have my very pale pea greens, dark greens, and then my very pale greens. Don't think that one goes there. These are my pale greens. Slightly darker greens. So I do like to keep them all together because it's just a bit easier to find, that's all. And these are May green and olive green. These, although they are greens, I tend to keep them with my pale, cold grey greens, my cool my cool greys are the olives, and then I've got my purples, and my blues. Thought I had those with the different purples. I should have that with there. That should go there because it's next, but it'll be fine where it is. I'll just bob those in the middle because I'm not sure where I'm going to put those. Oopsie. And I've got some dark greys. Oops. And I've got my cool greys and my whites. Right. Lost Charlie now. Come on, Charlie. There we are. So everything's back to normal. So I do like my firm colour shapers, but the little one says it's a firm one, and as I say, I did not pay £8 for them, but they are about £8 to £15 a set now. I bought a set for about, I think they were about a fiver, and they had 3, and these were called Artist Line. And I would say they're medium firm, even though they're exactly the same colour really. They're not as firm, but I'm not quite sure. Even here, it's just not the same. And there were some little white ones, which were pastel shaper chisels. These were Force, Line and Star, and these were £15 from Cass Art. This is the colour shaper pastel set kit. It had a taper point, a flat chisel, a fan and a blender brush. The fan's in there and the blender brush is out here somewhere, but I haven't used it. I just found a dark green as well, pop that into there. But have a look around. I was a bit disappointed. This is a softer one for blending, but these will probably be used on proper pastel paper. When we're using them in a colour book, a shaper would be fine. So I seem to have frozen. Do I seem to have frozen? Unless it's my laptop that's just playing up. So I'm going to stop the video there. So that's the end of part 1 of Animorphia, Kerby Rosanes Animorphia, and that's Charlie the parrot. So thanks for watching.